Today our topic is how did the national movement start escalated in India? How did it reach to its apex level? How did India achieve independence? This is the main focus in this lesson. The lesson is too vast because we have to deal with a history of nearly 90 years if you want to study exactly about how the Indian independence movement got its exact shape. You have to deal with the issue of 1857, the first revolt. This is also known as the Sipai Mutni revolt. This Sipai Mutni revolt was the first attempt made by the Indians to fight against the Britishers. In this attempt, they were not successful, but the spirit of the revolt has survived and made inspiring to the Indians that we can fight against the mighty empire of the Britishers. That is the reason why the first Sipai Mutni revolt, or it is also called as the first war of independence. The 1857 revolt is also named as the first war of independence. Now, coming back to the concept here, how did India get its independence? In the process of its attainment of independence, how far Indian get the movement of nationalism to its larger extent? How did India start its journey? Whether India was having a very clean and clear picture to get its independence? What were the troubles or what are the odds that are in between India achieving the independence? How did the Britishers play the games? What were the problems that are to be connected and solved clearly to get the independence of India? So we have seen the examples of Vietnam, we have seen the examples of Nigeria, we have seen the example of China in our previous lessons. In China we had a different scenario. In Vietnam we had the people fighting against two colonial masters, and in Nigeria we have three different tribal groups getting connected to attain independence. But the Indian case is a summary of all these three together, where we have to get independence against the cost of the division of a nation. Earlier the nation was united, but it was divided in order to get independence. So let us see the proceedings or the issues, how they were dealt to get its independence. That is the reason why the lesson name is kept as the national movement in India, but the caption is partition. I think you know what is the meaning of the word partition. Partition symbolizes breaking up something. So the Indian national movement covers the entire period from 1939 to 1947. So these 8 years are considered very crucial for India to get its independence. It's not like only these 8 years Indians have survived or fought for independence. Indians are fighting for independence earlier than 1857. It was in the larger extent, or it is shown widely against the Britishers their dissatisfaction in 1857 revolt, which is also known as the first war of independence. There were various reasons. Various groups of the societies have fought against the Britishers in the first war of independence. From then onwards, we have the various steps, various movements which were done by the Indians to get independence. In this process of its attainment of independence, the last 8 years or the final period of attainment of independence has played a crucial role. Now let us discuss them in detail. Now going into the starting period of concentration here, the year 1939 has a historical significance in the entire world. It is a wake-up call to the entire world. What happened during that time? What were the Indians doing, or what is the step taken by the British India? Are the Indians satisfied? If they are satisfied, to what extent they are satisfied? On what point they are going to support it? Are they going to deny it? Let us deal with all these issues. So the period of 1939 to 1942 is considered as very crucial in the Indian context of independence movement. why is it very important or very crucial from 1939 to 1942 is the other side, that is in the European part, we have Hitler raising his hand against the Polish corridor, which turned into a second world war, which was not expected during that period. So the second world war II was started in the year 1939. So during this period, India was completely dominated by the British or British colonialism. Should Indian people support the Britishers in the favor of the attack against Hitler or no? What would be the task? Should we support the war? If we are going to support the World War II, British India, as it is dominated by the Britishers or occupied by the Britishers, if we are supporting it, should the Indians be asked about it or no? What would be the Indians' context on this? What are the factors that are going to help the Indians to support the Britishers against the war? What are the criteria that are necessary for us? In this scenario, we have a synopsis of like in 1937, for the first time, we have conducted elections by the Britishers, even though the elections were not truly democratic, but they have initiated in their 11 provinces, they have conducted elections, and out of these, most of them are won by the Congress party. The Congress party formed their representatives in that particular provinces and they made them as members. Yeah, the voting percentage is very less, just only 1%. It is restricted to very few people, and in very few lands we have the voting percentage distributed. So leaving all the negativities here, they started to give some kind of freedom for the people of Indians, that Indian lands should be governed by the Indian representatives. This initiative was taken forward and brought into the context. In this scenario, when the situations are going on in such a way that Indians are also to be incorporated into the system, this is the ideology behind the Britishers introducing the election system, getting the elections done for them and making the people to participate in the elections, even though the number was very less. This led towards a clear picture that Indians are gaining their stand in British India. So it's no longer far away for the Britishers to accept Indians as the leader of their own nation. So when the situation is going like this, the discussions were escalated like whether should we support the World War or no. We have again two groups in the World War. Axis powers, the Allied powers. The Axis powers are the group of Germany, Italy, Japan, while in the Allied powers we have Britain, France, and then we have USSR, finally joining USA. So these are the main groups which fought the Second World War. Now, as our British, the colonial master, is on the side of the Allied powers, so obviously they would expect that we should fight war in the favor of the Britain, which means against Germany. This favor of against Germany has also got some behind coins or the other side of the coin issues also, because Indians are not at all in a mood or a scenario to accept a dictator, or if we accept him and if he starts growing and for by chance if he takes over the victory on the war, definitely he would expand his region and control the entire world. And Indians are very much concerned about the growing German Nazism and fascism which is growing in Italy. the Nazism and fascism are in their extreme peaks during the period of the World War II. Actually, it would be better to say that these are the two main reasons for them to go into war. In Nazism, it is treated that German people are the higher race people, they are superior than everybody, there is no chance of anybody equating with them at any point of time. So, they are considered as a superior race in the entire world and they are born to rule. This is the criteria which is taught in the Nazism. This is the reason which made Hitler to kill the lakhs of Jews and millions of the gypsies and the disabled people. And moving on to the other side of Italy, where the Mussolini, the other growing leader of fascism, who also followed the same steps of our Nazism or walked into the same shoes of Hitler and made that Italy people are superior than the other people, the national interest stands above than everything else. These all are the main things, and he also told that war is compulsory for everybody, like how a maternity is for a woman, a war is for a nation, which means that a woman gets its complete perfection only after she becomes a mother. In the same way, a nation also will become complete only if it attempts and wins a war. So these are the criteria, or these are the cleanly bold issues which are generated in the Nazism and in the fascism. So these two are against the true democratic spirit. Now Indians are already facing the colonial system and they are completely against the Britishers in this point. So they want independence towards democracy, where everybody is treated equally free and opportunities are provided for everyone irrespective of their caste, creed, race or sex. So now they don't want any of the Nazism growing towards them or any of the fascism, or they even can't afford to go towards the communism or the socialism. So Indians are in a dilemma, like should we support the Britishers or no? So we get a clear stand of picture that because of Germany and Italy standing on the other side or the opposite side, and we are on the British side because we are ruled by the Britishers, and finally we may have a choice of taking a stand if we are promised that we are going to be provided freedom as soon as the war comes to an end, or if we lend our support during the war period, it would be paid back in the form of giving us freedom. But again, there are two issues in this. Let us see the issues. Now, coming to the point of the Britishers, in British or in the United Kingdom, we have the party which is in power was the Conservatives. The Conservative Party. So the Conservative Party was headed by Winston Churchill. He was a key leader of the Conservative Party, or he was the Prime Minister of the Britain during that period, and he don't want to give any promise to any of the colonial country that we are going to give freedom as soon as the war is going to come to an end. And even they are not sure like what would be the result of the war, because in the initial periods of the World War II, Hitler's army was ranging in its high peaks. By the Mussolini support, they were in a par of excellence and they could defeat even the Russian army at some point of time, and some of the British battalions were destroyed during his tenure. So as the period is going on, so they are not in a condition that whether they are going to give promise that it would be sure or not, whether it could be assured they are going to give freedom for the Indians or no. So the leader Winston Churchill also never promised anything to be done regarding this issue of giving colonial freedom towards the Indians or any other nation in the British Empire, and they were very particular that they don't want to give or break their colonial empire at any cost. But at the same time, the rising anti-feeling towards the Conservative Party and the future elections, the party which may be expected to come is the Labour Party. This Labour Party has already promised that as soon as Labour Party is the other alternative party which is existing in Britain, as we have Congress and BJP in our country where most of the time either of the party comes to power, in the same way in Britain we have the Conservative Party and the Labour Party. So the Labour Party is the next alternative party which is going to come into power with the growing dissatisfaction against the people or the rulers of the Britain during that period. So the Conservative Party has already promised or made a statement that we will assure that we are going to give freedom for India as soon as the war puts to end. So in this kind of statement, Indians are ready or expecting that we would be getting freedom as soon as the world war comes to end. At that point of time, the British gave a statement that is the Congress Party representing the entire nation, and they also made a statement very clear that we are not only considered of the Congress Party representation, we are also considered towards the parties or the other sections of the communities or the people who are staying in India, and we feel that we are also to address them clearly, not only the representation of the Congress Party, which means that Congress is not considered as the entire representative of the nation, it is considered only a part of the nation. We have Muslims, we have the Sikh community, so their meaning is that they are going with the policy of the divide and rule policy, and their questioning is that is Congress truly a representative of the nation? With this obstinity maintained by the Britishers, the congressmen got very angry and sincerely they walked out of the provincial assemblies. In 1939, the elections were held in 1937. So in 1939, they resigned, all the Congress members resigned and made walked out to prove that they are the true representatives of the entire Indian nation, because already they have formed the governments, they have won the elections, they are representing. Even the percentage of voting was very less or minor percentage of voters are allowed to vote, but they prove that they are elected by the people through the system of procedure which was given by the Britishers. So this made the congressmen feel very bad and they got panic and they started to resign and move out of the houses. This step made the government itself to declare that some special powers are entrusted to the government by 1940, and according to these special powers, anybody can be arrested at any point of time and without prosecution can be kept in jail for many days, because the congressmen who came out of their powers, who resigned for their posts and walked out of the houses or the assemblies, started to organize many of the individual satyagrahas. These individual satyagrahas should be stopped by the Britishers because they could be the growing alarm against the British rule in the nation. So in order to check all these things, the Britishers decided to stop them and to question them by arresting all these people in order to make a clear stand that they are going to suppress all these kind of things. So by 1940 to 41, many hundreds of people like individual satyagrahas were maintained, but nothing could reach to the successful efforts, and Britishers were very successful in crushing them because there was no any mass agitation or any movement which was organized during this period could reach to its success. So this would be one of the reasons why the satyagrahas failed, because they are only individual satyagrahas, they were kept in various places, they could not get wide connectivity of the people. So these all are the various reasons which made them to fail and Britishers to go on to the upper hand and to take over the chance of grabbing the freedom and controlling the Indians for further long period of time. Now the Britishers have raised a serious issue of the topic, like after they dismiss the Congress as a true representative of the nation. Next, who represents the nation of India? Who represents the people of our country? Like what are the basis for representation? Are the people of Congress the true representatives? That was denied. Then if Congress is not the people's representative, who is the other one who is going to represent the people of India? If Congress is representing the Hindus, then who is going to represent the Muslims? The Britishers' stand is very clear in getting the stand, is that they want a clear cut division between the Hindus and Muslims. The Hindus and Muslims are to be divided very clearly to maintain their hold on the nation. In order to maintain their hold on the nation, they have started to use the policy called divide and rule. This divide and rule policy is to divide the Indians into Hindus and Muslims. Why only Hindus and Muslims? What about the other categories? The majority of the Indians are Hindus and the minority community are Muslims. So in order to get a breakup in the unity of the Indians who are asking for the Indian independence together under the leadership of Mahatma Gandhi, so they started to put a pinpoint breakage for them to get a clear picture of division between the Hindus, like Hindus versus Muslims, so that they can come to a stand on any of the move which will be made either by the Hindus or by the Muslims. So once the Britishers came up with this policy, the leaders of the Muslims were escalated to move to the highest pitches, because Muhammad Ali Jinnah is famously known as M.A. Jinnah, started the party called Muslim League. So the Muslim League was not so famous as earlier, even up to the 1940s, because it is not a clear division between the Indian mindset that Hindus are separate and Muslims are separate. All were represented by the Congress community. But as the question was raised by the Britishers and the movement of leadership, Britishers calling the Muslim leaders and talking with them, interacting with them, and calling the congressmen and considering them as only the Hindu people, and they started to form the contest in the elections. And even in the elections, the Muslim League could not give a clear-cut fight. Out of 430, it could get only 110 seats, not even a half mark cross. So it is very clearly evident that Muslim League is not a big, it does not have a big show to put off here. It is just representing a minority community. So it started to put its hand towards the issue what is being raised by the Britishers. So the Muslim League had a very vital role to play in the formation or in the partition of India to be there, which was the major consequence or the key step which the Britishers have kept a condition to give freedom for India. Now coming to the reality here, what is the Muslim League? Muslim League was a party which was formed in 1906. Initially this party was representing only the Muslim landlords till 1930s in Uttar Pradesh region. So when this party is representing only the Muslim landlords till 1930, this party was not considered as a representative of the entire Muslim community. It was only restricted to the higher Muslim people or the rich Muslim communities. Later on, because of the steps taken by the Britishers and the comments given by the Britishers, the Muslim League from 1930s to 1940s got emerged into a party. Later it got emerged into a national party where it started to question the entire decisions which are taken by the Congress party. Now in this process, initially if you see the results which were conducted in 1939, it has got only 4.4% of votes out of 481 seats which it has contested. It has got only 1 or 2 seats where it could get the winning majority, and out of 58 seats, Congress could get 29. So this shows that Congress is considered as a true representative not only for Hindus but also for the Muslims. But coming into the ground reality, the situations turned so seriously against the Congress after the situations came, like in the United Provinces or in the western part or in the regions of Rajasthan and the upper Punjab region, Haryana region, Sindh region, where the majority of seats are won by the Muslim League, but they need the support of the Congress. And the Congress party clearly denied its stand because the Muslim League is clearly stating it is a representative of the Muslim community and not the other communities. So the Congress readily decided not to support the Muslim League in the United Province or in the northwestern part of India or in the Sindh region of India. This made Muhammad Ali Jinnah to escalate the issue against the Congress. So Muhammad Ali Jinnah, the very famous personality in Pakistan, if you say right now, because Muhammad Ali Jinnah is the main person who divided India or who was the leader of the Muslim League who further went on in the division of India and Pakistan, or in the creation of Pakistan. It would be apt to say that he is the father of Pakistan. Now, Muhammad Ali Jinnah started to make comments against the Congress, like Congress is an insensitive party which is not having any interest towards the Muslims. It is only truly Hindu party. So he started to make it and focus it only that Congress represents only Hindus, not at all the Muslims. The Muslims' interests are not at all entertained by the Congress. This means that Congress is a Hindu party and the other alternative for Muslims is the Muslim party, that is Muslim League. This picture was made very clear in all the statements by Muhammad Ali Jinnah. Even Congress tried to put it off or showcase it that it is not the real picture what is done by Muhammad Ali Jinnah. It is just a portrayal which is going to be escalated in a larger scale, but the congressmen failed because some of the steps taken by the congressmen, like Congress leaders are not supposed to join any of the Muslim League party even in the formation of the government, and the next step is the Congress were not even allowed to join into the RSS or any other members, but this was taken in 1938. The earlier step was taken in 1937. So Muhammad Ali Jinnah was very successful to a larger extent from 1937 to 1940s. This made the people's mindset to rethink against the stand of the Congress. So Muhammad Ali Jinnah used the entire scenario very perfectly, very clearly to escalate the Muslim League into a very high standard and a true representative of the Muslims. So by the time it comes to 1947, the entire mindset of the Muslims have moved and focused towards the Muslim League, and they were turned against towards the Congress, and finally they could achieve the partition and the creation of a new state called Pakistan, which further led to many controversial issues, communal riots, but finally we have to accept that India was partitioned by the Britishers in 1947. Now, what are the steps taken by the Congress to rebuild the confidence of the people in India? We will discuss now. Now the Congress has to take some immediate steps to rebuild the confidence of the people in order to get back the congressmen or the Muslims who are supporting the Congress, or in order to provide an environment which makes the Muslim men to feel secure. So the two individual sabhas which came up are the Hindu Mahasabha the next one is RSS, Rashtriya Swayam Sevak Sangh. So this Rashtriya Swayam Sevak Sangh or the Hindu Mahasabha, the main principle which is underlying this is that to rebuild the confidence and to unite all the Hindus and to cut the boundaries of caste, sect and all the other categories, and unite all the Hindus towards the unity and to fight against the Britishers. At the same time, Congress also was very much inspired and liked the activities of the Hindu Mahasabha and the Rashtriya Swayam Sevak Sangh or the RSS. Because of the steps, all the Hindus are getting united. At the same time, Congress appealed to all the Muslims that we are the people of one nation. Either you are a Hindu or a Muslim, but you are not the people of two different nations. We are the people of the same nation, share the same land and fighting for the same struggle of independence. These are the statements made by the Congress, but these statements could not build seriously any attempts to get back the Muslim men whom we have lost in the name of Muslim League. The famous writer of Sare Jahan Se Acha, Muhammad Iqbal. Muhammad Iqbal in 1930, in his presidential elections in the Muslim League, who wrote the song called Sare Jahan Se Acha, for the first time expressed his view or the interest that a separate state should be created for the Muslims, where the Muslims are in majority. His intention is that there should be a separate state of northwestern India to be clearly mentioned only for the Muslims autonomy there. In 1930s, this was considered to be a far of reality because it is just to be considered a normal note made by Muhammad Iqbal, the writer of Sare Jahan Se Acha, who made it in his presidential speech in 1930 in the Muslim League Party conference. Now, moving on to the Pakistan, from where did we get the word Pakistan or the Pakistan resolution? Coming into the ground reality, it was not given by any of the political leaders or by any political party or by anybody else. It was given by the candidate name called Chaudhry Rahmat Ali. Earlier he used to write pamphlets for him. In 1933 to 1935, when he published many of the pamphlets, he used the word Pakistan, and later it was considered as it was a dream of a young student who was studying in Cambridge, who wishes it could be done, but it cannot be done in reality. This is a view expressed by many of the people during the period of 1935 to 1937. As the time passed on, Muhammad Ali Jinnah started to escalate the issues very strong, and the period was very crucial after 1939 because as many of the congressmen were individually doing the satyagrahas were arrested by the British and kept in jails for 3 to 4 years. So this is the period of the crucial growth of Muslim League. The Muslim League could successfully motivate all the people and created its own strong base to form the Muslim League Party as a strong party and a strong representation of the Muslims. When the Muslims are able to be represented by the Muslim League, they started to think on the various other alternatives other than Pakistan. Pakistan also was considered as one of the alternatives which could be suggested for Muhammad Ali Jinnah. But when the Muhammad Ali Jinnah got the suggestion of Pakistan, he was very much satisfied. Even the farmers were very much satisfied because they could not dream of a state where Hindus, Hindu money lenders, Hindu financials will be giving money towards a Muslim at a very soft corner at a very low rate of interest. This is a far from reality. This made the farmers to support the Muhammad League or the Muslim League to form towards the Pakistan resolution because their dream was satisfied only when we get a new state and where only and only the Muslims are given the major autonomy of this. This is a far of issue which motivated the people of Muslims in the Indians to move towards the Muslim League and help for the formation of the creation of Pakistan state. Now, is really worth of Muslim League creating of Pakistan? See, it came into a situation that where Muhammad Ali Jinnah could not get convinced with any of the benefits, or the congressmen could not convince or negotiate with Muhammad Ali Jinnah other than creation of the state. This was a condition which was reached by 1947, where Muhammad Ali Jinnah was in its peak of excellence, that he started to question and demand even the Britain government that there should be a separate state only and only for Muslims with the full autonomy given for the Muslims. So the congressmen don't have any other choice rather than accepting it and giving for the partition of India. This made the reason for the creation of the Pakistan state. In this way, initially it was written by Chaudhry Rahmat Ali in Cambridge when he was writing his pamphlets, who wrote freely of course. Maybe he had a vision of having a separate state, but we don't know that his vision or his words were very strong, that in future of just less than 20 years it would be created a nation on the name of Pakistan. It was a wish which was expressed by our Muhammad Iqbal, who wrote Sare Jahan Se Acha, but he also did not wish the name of Pakistan, but later it became to be called as Pakistan Resolution, where it reached to its success. Now, the serious issue is the British. Who is going to make the Britishers to quit India? This is the question which was raised when the Second World War was in its peak. Now the situation is that Britishers want to make their stand clear that Indians should support them on any aspect against the Axis powers. See here, in 1941, Japan started to invade India and to attack Indians. So in order to get rid of Japanese people, the Britishers have a choice that they have to get Indians on their support and make them to fight against the Japan. In order to get this step into success or into reality, the then Prime Minister of Britain, Mr. Winston Churchill, has sent one of his ministers called Stafford Cripps. He came to India all along his way and to discuss with the Indians to lend their support against the Japanese people. This was a situation in 1942 where the Japanese were at peak of their success in the Second World War, where initially they could defeat the Britain people, they could defeat the American people, their armies could rally against the Russian troops. Now, so in 1940 when Japan attacked India, Britishers were in a view that if we don't get Indians on our side, definitely Japan is going to capture Indians also. So this is an intention which made Winston Churchill to send him personally one of his ministers called Stafford Cripps to discuss the issue and to get them on the side, the Indians especially, towards the favor of the Britain rather than against the Japanese people. Now the issue is that did the Stafford Cripps mission been successful? No. The Stafford Cripps mission has failed. The talks between the Indian leaders and the Cripps mission or the Cripps has been failed literally, because we are not assured of any promise that we are going to be given freedom as soon as the war comes to end. And at the same time, the Japanese people are victorious against the Britain, against the American armies, which initially made a clear picture for the Indians that we also can get a clear idea and we can defeat the people using the Japanese support. And during this period, when the situation is going at this point of time, the Communist Party of India, the CPI, known as the Communist Party of India, decided to support Britain against Japan, because the Japan is a country which is attacking Russian troops. So fundamentally these people are the communists, and Russia is considered as the motherland of communism. So they are against the view of like Japan country controlling the India. So they are against the Japanese people and in favor of the Britain people, which was needed by the British at that moment of time. So the Communist Party of India is ready to support the Britain and ready to lend the people to fight against the Japanese people. And this made a clear difference when Gandhiji made a statement that Indians could deal better with the Japan rather than with the British. This is a view expressed by Mahatma Gandhiji in the context of communist people expressing their support towards the Britain people and fighting against the Japanese people. Then Gandhiji came on a contrary view that instead of supporting the British against the Japan, let us support Japan, capture India and then fight against the Britain people. Here Gandhiji had a view that if Japan is occupying India, it would be easy for us to defeat Japan at the cost that Japan is an Asian country, is against the blue blood or the war issues, like against the allied powers. They are against the domination, they are against the special status of the Britain people, the superior race of the Britain people. Here he wants to make his stand clear that Japan would support India because it's an Asian country, and we could fight against Japan very easily and get rid of Japan rather than getting rid of Britain people. His ideology was clear. This was the main view which brought communists on the other side versus Gandhiji, where the contrary views are expressed by Gandhiji and the Communist Party of India, like communist people supporting the Britain and against Japan, whereas Gandhiji against Britain in the favor of Japan occupying the nation, and surely that Japan would help Indians to attain its independence rather than the Britishers. This is the statement made by Mahatma Gandhi. What was the successful to this? Now, who really made India to fight against the Britishers? Did India get its Quit India movement to be successful? Gandhiji already decided that we are going to launch the Quit India movement to its excellence, to its far, in every corner, nook and corner of India. We are going to launch the movement and we will not support the Britain at any point of time against the Japanese people. These are the stands taken by Mahatma Gandhi. Now, what happened to this? did India reach to its success? What is the other forces that are working behind India to get its independence? Whether the other forces are successful or not. What fate was met to them? Let us discuss about this. The Quit India movement was started by Mahatma Gandhi, and as soon as the Quit India movement was at its initial stages, Mahatma Gandhi was arrested and kept imprisoned. Now, when Mahatma Gandhi was imprisoned, we need somebody else to take over the key step and make India to fight for Quit India movement. At this point of time, we got a new person getting into picture, that is the Subhash Chandra Bose. Subhash Chandra Bose came into picture during this period, and he secretly went to Germany and then went to Japan, made the agreements and made a clear stand that the POWs, those are POW, the full form is the prisoners of the war. So the POWs, whoever are in the Japan or in the Germany, could be released on a condition that they are going to join the INA. INA is Indian National Army or Azad Hind Fauj. This was started by Subhash Chandra Bose with an idea that we can take the support of the Japanese people, as already the Japan troops are entering into the Indian land, and we can use them and fight against the mighty British Empire, as the allied powers are in a situation that they are going to lose the war. And everything was set right, and the situations were moving on very close, that we are ready to get the victory on the issue. Like army was ready, the commander is there, Mr. Subhash Chandra Bose. He is getting the support of the Japanese people, he is getting the support of the German people. He travelled there secretly, he got everything done, he is ready to take. This plan was explained to Mahatma Gandhiji. Gandhiji openly denied this plan and asked him to stop and not move on ahead with this plan, because Gandhiji was not in a position to accept that Japan is going to be the liberator, or to bring liberal stance, or to bring freedom for India at the cost of Japan occupying India. His point is very clear that we have to fight against British first, then we can fight against the Japan. This is the only stand what Mahatma Gandhi want to make here. Gandhiji did not want Japan to be the liberator of India at any point of time, and seriously and strictly advised Subhash Chandra Bose not to move forward on his step of Indian National Army. But seriously, Subhash Chandra Bose, who did all the background work, who went to Germany all along the way, and then he travelled to Japan, he got the support, he had some bases in Singapore, he got the everything to be done for him, and finally he decided and he established the entire army, and the soldiers who returned back and came to India are willingly joining towards the Indian National Army. So Subhash Chandra Bose could not say no to all the soldiers. So he decided that he is going to move forward, even though it is a tough time for him against Mahatma Gandhiji, because Gandhiji is the unquestioned leader in Congress, and Subhash Chandra Bose also was one of the main leaders of Congress. And as Gandhiji denied the step to be taken, Subhash Chandra Bose had to face many questions, and it was a tough time indeed ahead for him, but he decided, let me face the challenge, and he started to move forward. The very soon as he decided to move forward, the situation was so inconvenient for him was that Russia started to check the attack of growing of Nazism. The situation was like this: the Japan, the German army is ready and defeating many of the places, Russian army, American army, Britain army. But finally in 1944 in Stalingrad, the Russian army defeated the army of Germany, or the Nazi army, to a very complete destroyable defeat, where they could not stand up again. This step changed the entire scenario again. Now Japan also became very weak after 1944 because the victory turns into the loss. They started to lose many of the places. They are getting defeated at many of the places. And one more shocking thing is that Subhash Chandra Bose went on missing. There is a controversy on this, that whether he is really missing or anything happened to him, or what happened to his dead body. If he is dead, is the dead body found at that place? But many say they did not find dead body at all. Some people say that we have seen Subhash Chandra Bose roaming in some other places. So we have many issues or many questions solved on the controversy of Subhash Chandra Bose missing. So the leader of Indian National Congress is missing. The situation was changed. So again the point came to new, and by 1944 ending, the Britain government decided and released Mahatma Gandhi from prison, who was arrested for the Quit India movement. Once they released him, they came to a conclusion that we have to go for negotiations on the issue of whether India to be given independence or no. Now what happened after 1944 when Gandhiji came outside of the prison, or when Gandhiji was released? Did the Britishers decided to give freedom for India? If they have decided, what are the basis for giving it? What is the criteria of giving India to independence? Let us discuss that. What happened after Mahatma Gandhi was released? What happened when Subhash Chandra Bose went on missing? What was the fate of INA? Did Indian National Congress move on ahead, or the future of INA was in a question? Now these all answers we find under the upsurge. (1946-48) period. This period was a crucial period in Indian history, because during this period the people started to ask questions towards the others, especially towards the Britishers. They asked everything, because they asked their rights, they asked their demands, they asked the questions as if it happened in the Russian scenario, asked for the quality of the food that should be received by them. Now, as soon as Mahatma Gandhi was released outside, the British started to punish the INA, the Indian National Congress. The Indian National Army, which was founded by Subhash Chandra Bose, and when Bose went on missing, there was no other leader who could take over the step. And as in the Second World War, the Japan lost the stand and lost the war, the Britain were victorious. Now the Britain want to give punishment for the soldiers of the INA, and they started to arrest them and put on in the prison. And many of the INA soldiers were Muslims, and Muslims were literally killed in the prison as they were against the royal kingdom. Even this killing of the Muslims did not bring together the Hindus and Muslims together at any point of time, because they are divided clearly on the stands of Muslim League and the Congress. So as the situation is going on this side, on one coin of the side, the other side is that the food quality was not good, the people are not getting sufficient amount of food, the quality of the other items was not good, the product or the cost of the items was increased very much, the scarcity or the shortage of the items was found, and all these things started to be questioned. Lack of employment, the people started to ask questions regarding this issue. What about the food? What about the shortage of the things? What about the lack of employment opportunities? What about the things are going on in the scenario? People started to raise their voice against this, and finally in the in Mumbai, where the Royal Navy people have come out demanding for a better quality or better wages. The wages are really very less after the war was finished. So they started to demand for the better wages for them, and in order to get the better wages, they decided to do the strikes. The people came outside and doing the strike. What happened in the strike? How many people participated in the strike? Whether the strike was successful or not? What was the fate of the strike? Let us discuss all these things. So the popular upsurge of 1946 and 48, where we have seen the scenario here. On 18th February 1946, we can see here the Royal Indian Navy, the guards of the Royal Indian Navy came outside of it, and they started to demand for better food, the better pay packages for Indian soldiers as well as for the white soldiers, and release of the political prisoners, release of the INA workers and all these people. And they came outside, they stopped the working, and when they started to stop the work, the effect was felt everywhere. They came outside as rallies, they started to carry the tricolor flag, the crescent and the hammer shaped, showing it we are the workers, we want the equal rights, equal pays for everybody. Everybody who works should be treated equally, no discrimination should be made. All these things made it here, and the effect of this what? 78 ships were blocked and stopped down there. 20 shore regions were completely blocked. No ship could move outside or get inside, and 20,000 ratings of the people were on the roads. When the situation was such a kind of worse, then the situation was that people are showing their anger against the royal army. The police and the army were used to suppress this, but the people are literally fighting very seriously against them, using their support towards them. And moving on to the next, on 22nd, the next 4 days after this, what happened is, on 22nd February, the 1946, 3 lakh mill workers came outside and moved on in order to fight against them, to ask for a better equal payments for them, better quality of food, better wages for them, equal treatment for white and black, the Indian soldiers, and then release of the INA prisoners and the soldiers, and even the Indonesian occupying of the Indonesian region troops, withdrawal of the people of Indian soldiers from the Indonesian troops. These all were the steps taken by the people in order to show their caste, their anger towards them. So 1946 year was a very crucial year where Indians started to put forward their anger in the form of strikes and revolts. And as we move on to the scenario here, in 1946, in the West Bengal region, in the east, we have one more agitation for the farmers, asking for the equal demand of status or increase in their work share. It is also called as Thibaga. Thibaga is a share like not less than 2/3 of the share should be given for the workers. At least 2 parts, not less than 2 parts should be given. This was led by the provincial Kisan Sabha. The main Kisan Sabha means the farmers Sabha means the representation here, which has fought for the representation or for the equal respect or for share, due share for the farmers in the West Bengal region and in the Bengal region. So in 1946, we have a revolution or a revolt in the east, we have a strike in the west in the Mumbai region, and at the same time as we move on to the Deccan part, even in Hyderabad, the people, the farmers took the arms, the peasants took the arms and fought against the landlords and the landlord money lenders who landed or who given money for them at very high rate of interest. The only demand of the peasants was that we have to be cleared our debts of zero balance and to be accepted, because the high rated interest made them to get double and triple amounts where they could not pay it at any cost of time. And nearly 3,000 farmers gathered here and fought against the landlords, and almost 3,000 villages have this impact on them. 3,000 families were present. So 3,000 is a crucial number here and a very large number to fight against them. So we could see in each and every corner of India the upsurge. The people are against the government, the existing government. They want a change. They want their rights. They are demanding their rights. They want a better quality of food, a better wage system for them, equal system if anybody works, and at the same time they want the Indian National Army people to get back to them. No treason should be taken against them. The British government can't kill anyone only because of the reason that they are going to attack the Britishers under the leadership of Subhash Chandra Bose. These are the various steps which raised the issue of 1946 to 48. We can see a brief recap of this. In 1946 February, we have the Royal Indian Navy Guards coming out and fighting for the war and for equal status here. On the same month, in 22nd Feb, we have the mill workers coming outside. Because of these people, 78 ships were on shore and 20 shore regions were blocked completely. 20,000 guards were on the rally against the existing government. Police and army are sincerely trying to stop or crush the revolt or the strike, but it was went in null void action because the people are showing their anger of hungry. The people are hungry. The people are fighting for the food. The same in the east. In Bengal, we have the people fighting for the Tihaba. then the Tibaga, which was led by the Provincial Kisan Sabha, and in Hyderabad we have the peasants taking arms and fighting against the landlords to clear their debts. So these all scenes moves us to the picture that the entire Indians are facing problem with the existing government, so they need and they started to ask their rights to a larger extent. Now let us see what happened. What are the steps taken by the government to do it? Now, what happened for Muslim League? What happened for Congress? Did Congress and Muslim League go hand in hand? And how did the Muslim League emerge as the strongest confidence or the solo spokesman of the Muslims? Let us discuss this for a while. See here. So the Muslim League and Congress, how did the power, the transfer of power got transformed here? See here, in 1945, the Britain has decided to set up a central executive council of truly Indians, where it is an initial work or a temporary preliminary work to establish the independence of India. So the Muslim League decided that they want to have their own members and they would be electing their Muslim representatives. When the elections were held in 1946, in the central level, the most of the Muslim seats are reserved for Muslims. The Muslim League has won 30, almost all the reserved seats at the central level, as well as coming to the provincial level at the state levels. Out of 509 seats, 442 seats were won by the Muslim League, which clearly shows that 86%, the clear percentage of the Muslim votes, that is 86% of the Muslim votes are in favor of the Muslim League, and at the same time the non-Muslim votes towards the Congress has got 91% of the non-Muslim votes. It's clearly evident that Muslims started to consider its representation with the Muslim League, and the others, especially the Hindus, got associated with the Congress. Now the Congress got 91% of the non-Muslim vote, means the Hindu vote. The Muslim League got 86%, which means it's clearly saying that the Muslim League is the only and only spokesman of Muslims. The entire interests of the Muslims would be addressed very clearly, perfectly by the Muslim League. This was the intention expressed by the voting procedure, what has happened for us. So now what happened after this? The next, how would the states be created? What was the next possible alternative? Next, what are the steps taken by the Congress or the Muslim League to come forward or to move ahead forward? Let us see them. 1946 March, the Britain decided to send a cabinet committee to come to India, especially the capital region of Delhi, to address the issue of whether India should be united or to be partitioned. What are the basis for that? What would be the all-party approach? All these things. The cabinet toured for nearly 3 months, concluded very clearly, and came with a conclusion that it should have a 3-tier confederation, 3-level confederation, and provided India will be united. This was an initial agreement which was made by all parties, and all parties like Indian National Congress, Muslim League, all of them have accepted this point and made the agreement with them. But as the agreement was short-lived, the Muslim Leagues came forward with an intention that the ideas, the views of the people of the Muslims are not at all addressed properly. And the point is that the people will not feel secured in a nation where majority of them are Hindus. And they came with a point that we are going to go for a plan of direct action. So the direct action means that the people will come onto the roads. The people will come and do the work on the roads. People will be standing on the roads in order to express their view that they are going to do this. So finally, in August, they came to the plan of Direct Action Day. They asked all the Muslims to come onto the roads and to express their dissatisfaction against the 3-tier confederation, which was made by the cabinet mission. So this dissatisfaction was started initially in August 1946. Many millions of people came onto the roads and the violence started in almost all the places, and it was done for several days in Kolkata and all the other regions. Now, as the dissatisfaction started to grow and the disturbances created in the entire nation, by March 1946 to this August 1946, and as we move on to March 1947, the dissatisfaction was in a very high level. The Congress High Command had initially had very serious meetings with them, like whether to move forward on this or not. So they came up with an opinion that the Punjab should be divided into two parts, one for the Muslims, the other for the Hindus. The same with the case of the Bengal, one part for Hindus and the other part for the Muslims. Now, once the Congress High Command has come with an opinion that they are going to do this, because the violence is very high, the people are lost at a very high, large numbers. In order to stop the violence and the communal issues, the Congress immediately has to take some action on this. And at the same time, Mr. Wavell, the Viceroy of India, has been replaced by Mr. Mountbatten, the last Viceroy of India in that period of 1947. So they came forward, like Wavell will be replaced by Mountbatten, and Mountbatten had a last final round of talks with the Indian leaders as well as with the Muslim League leaders, asking that what is the stage or step to be moved forward to stop the communal riots. So he finally concluded that India should be given freedom only and only on the basis that India is going to be divided. So the regions of northwestern regions of India, the Punjab belt, and then the Sindh region, the Balochistan part, the Afghanistan part of small region, and the Bengal part is going to be added for the new creation state, and the state will be created and the transfer of power will be done from British domain to the new state, that is on 14th of August 1947, and in this way the new state of Pakistan has been created, and on 15th of August 1947 we got our Indian independence. The independence was a happy point to be there, but at the same time the division was done on the communal basis, on the religious basis, where many of the people have lost their own things. Hindus and Muslims started to fight with each other, and the people lost, many of them lost their lives, their properties, their lands and their buildings and everything. So let us see what happened next. How was the solution come out? What was Mahatma Gandhi doing at that point of time? Is really Mahatma Gandhi happy with this division? What step did he do to solve this one? Did he have any point to make it, or is he satisfied with the decision? What did Jawaharlal Nehru point out this point? Let us see this. What are the consequences which were felt after the partition of India and Pakistan? Once the India and Pakistan were formed and the nations were divided, what happened, or what are the consequences that were faced by the people? See, a partition is a very painful partition what India and Pakistan have met, and because of partition the migrations were forced to be done, and we can't get the exact calculations on this issue. As per the available data and the scenario here, the people became one against the other each other. The people, especially the Hindus, those who are living in the border regions, were forced to leave from their places. They need to search new homes for them. They were looted, they were burnt, sometimes they were killed. They lost entire properties. Nearly 1.5 crore people were displaced from that side to this side, either the Hindus or the Muslims, and 2 to 5 lakh Hindus and Muslims were killed or lost their lives. There is a scenario which is happening for us in the day-to-day scenes of the partition scenario. And when the partition was done, the people were forced to get migrated from one place to another place. And the Hindus, those who are living in the border regions of Pakistan also, should leave the region and move on into the Indian land. And in the same case with the people, those who are living in the Indian land, the Muslims, they were forced to leave there to the Pakistan lands. So the properties, the lands, the houses, whatever they own in these lands were occupied by somebody else. They lost their everything. In their lifetime, what they have achieved, they lost everything there. So this is a very painful one, and many lakhs of people lost their lives, lost their properties, lost their daily livelihoods, entire lifetime achievements, all these things. And at this point of time, Gandhiji toured to all the people, all the regions where people were displaced, were taking shelter in the refugee camps, where people were trained on the trains, people were staying out of the places, people are searching for new houses, where the situation was very painful. There was no food for many people. Gandhiji toured to many places and expressed his sorrow for all these things, because he was not at all happy with the situation what is going on around at that point of time. Gandhiji felt very bad because of the consequences of the partition, because the situation is that what he has worked so hard to achieve independence for a country like India, and India has a land of many races, many religions, many cultures, and expecting that, and here people are divided only on the basis of a religion. He felt very bad and very sorrow, and Gandhiji never approved the theory of two nation theory, and very soon Gandhi and Nehru with their initiative came up with the rights in the constitution that rights of minorities should be protected at any cost. They came with a new initiative here and provided security that all religions, all categories of people, all sections of people, either they are majority or minority, will have the equal status, equal respect, equal say in all the things as per the Constitution of India. These are new steps which are brought up with the intention and motto of Mahatma Gandhi. Mahatma Gandhi was not celebrating the first Indian independence movement. He was doing fasting because he did not like the scenario, and many of his brothers and sisters who were suffering in the partition effect. So he never felt very happy at the moment of time, and he was touring all the places to spread the peace and the brotherhood relation and to stop the communal violence which is spread in the nation. So in order to get his word to say that people have to be stable here and secured, he brought the right of minorities, and he never approved the two nation theory. But this was misunderstood by many of the Indian fanatics or Hindu fanatics, who later took some severe step. What was the severe step? What is the action taken? Against whom the action was taken? Let us see about that. Mahatma Gandhiji. Gandhiji, the father of the nation. We are in a situation now that we are going to discuss the crucial part of Gandhiji. As soon as we got independence, the creation of the state of Pakistan, where many of the people got displaced, lost their houses, migrated from one place to another place, forced to migrate from one place to another place, Mahatma Gandhi was not satisfied with the attempts made or the situations which are happening after the Indian independence movement. At that point of time, he is paying a visit in the Bengal region of the Nahokkali region of Bengal, where he is expressing his peace and brotherhood relations to maintain the softness of the people and to calm down the communal riots. At this point of time, there are some institutions, some communal parties and some parties which are objecting the stand of Mahatma Gandhi, and they were not satisfied with his move in the Indian politics at that point of time. They used to come and disturb the entire prayers of him, and very unsuccessful attempt was made on 28th of Jan 1948. On 28th of Jan 1948, an unsuccessful attempt was made to put end with Mahatma Gandhiji. So Gandhiji at that point of time made a statement that if I am going to be shotted for a madman's bullet, I should feel happy for it, and I should not have any anger on my face, and I should have God in my heart. This is the idea or the statement expressed by Mahatma Gandhiji when he knew that someone is attempting him to kill him. It's a great, that's why reason why Gandhiji is called a great man. Like Albert Einstein rightly remarked that we can't after some generations the people would get shocked, or the generations would not believe that this kind of man has moved on the earth of the present time with the blood and flesh. Means that a person who strongly believes in complete non-violence, and even a person is ready to kill him at his knowledge, then even then he is not even expressing any part of his angerness, but he is ready to take it with praying to God and forgive him. So finally on 30th Jan 1948, a Hindu fanatic, a strong supporter of Hinduism known as Hindu fanatic, Nathuram Godse. Nathuram Godse was once upon a time the member of the Hindu Mahasabha. He was active and he developed the antipathy of his own team, and he developed his own ideology that we have to run against this, and so he had a feeling that Gandhiji was the main person who inspired the people of Muslim League to go for a new state. That is his personal view. What he felt is a very crucial point. He was the main cause of all the miseries of these 1.5 crore people, or the 4 to 5 people who died in the communal clashes of India and Pakistan creation. and this made him to think in a very aggressive way, and he put forth that he brought a pistol and shot our Mahatma Gandhiji, or Gandhiji, literally when he was coming out of a prayer. Gandhiji, as per of his dream or his wish, that when Godse caught him or shot him with the gun, Gandhiji was very happy, smiling and praying to God, saying that, Hey Ram. These were the last words spoken by Gandhiji. With that, we come to the end of Gandhiji's lifetime. Nathuram Godse was affected on 14th Feb 1948. He was arrested, and Hindu Mahasabha had made its clear stand that from today onwards they are suspending all the political issues and they would concentrate only and only on the real rebuilding of the establishment of the organization, not on any political issues. So Nathuram Godse, even he did not do harm only for himself, even his own friends' dreams were not admired properly. He took up the wrong path, the wrong ideology, which costed India too much. We lost the father of the nation, Mahatma Gandhiji, at the cost of a Hindu fanatic who does not even think properly before he has done the thing. Even Mahatma Gandhi was not happy with the division of India and Pakistan. He himself was doing fasting on the first day of Indian independence. The situation was that, but Nathuram Godse came with a clear picture that Mahatma Gandhi was the main person who could be the reason for all these things, all the casualties, all the migrations, all the issues which are happening because of the partition. He thought Gandhiji was a key man who motivated the people to get towards the partition. But in the real picture, Gandhiji never approved the two-nation theory in the Congress party, in or out. So these are the real facts which are going to be happening. Now let us see what happened to the other princely states happened in the existing of the British domain. Did they willingly join towards India, or they went towards the other side? So what were the steps taken by the Indian government at that point of time to bring them into their control? The final stage, that is the creation of new independent India. We have in the British domain that 550 princely states are in existence other than the British India region. Now these princely states, did they get integrated with India? What is the procedure that was followed by the people to get it integrated to India? In these 550 states, we don't have any issue with the 547 states. I mean the princely states. Out of 550, 547 are ready to join. Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel, the Iron Man of India, was made the in charge of uniting all the princely states in agreeing with joining with the Indian Union. And he initially convinced all the people. He went to all the princely states, he called with them, he negotiated with them, and he made them to agree to accede into the Indian Union. And to protect their interest, he introduced the privy purses concept also, so that if they feel that their interest or their lands will be get curbed, that will be maintained under the privy purses. Special privileges were being allotted for them. But we have a problem in the incarnation or in the integration of the regions of Kashmir region, Junagadh and Hyderabad. These three states or princely states could not be ready to agree here. And when it comes to the scenario background here, the people are also revolting against the rulers here. Kashmir, we have Kashmir revolt, people are fighting against them. In Junagadh, the peasants are fighting. In Hyderabad, the local common people and the peasants are fighting against their own rulers. So in order to support them, the Congress party always supported the people. When the constitution was written also, they asked them to support. And Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel, rightly known as the Iron Man of India, clearly mentioned a statement saying that if you don't agree to come and accede with Indian Union, automatically the Indian military will be stepping into your regions, and forcefully we may need to take an action to defeat you and make you to agree to sign in. Even the statement was passed, then also they did not respond properly. So Indian army stepped in first into the Jammu and Kashmir region, later into the Junagadh, and finally into the Hyderabad. The Nizams, everybody surrendered completely, and they were brought into the Indian Union by 1956. Until 1956, we have the Indian states being created, new states being created on the basis of languages. We got Madras state, again Madras state got separated into Andhra state, and the Maratha state got separated to the Saurashtra. So we started many states getting it into the new states creation. Finally, Indian Union was formed by 1940 1947 or 48, but the princely states everything got joined by 1948 and got them into the embarked into the Indian Union or Indian map. But the thing is that the action which was taken from this thing as the military action, whatever since Indians have been taught, finally the creation of Indian Union was not an easy task. It was a nearly process of 200 years which took for them to come from a colonial country towards an independent Indian nation. Finally, India achieved to get its independence by 1947 and got the perfect constitution by 1950. Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel has very confidentially, very strictly has done the policies and united and integrated all the princely states without giving them any choice. But interestingly, in 1971, Indira Gandhi abolished the privy purses, but even then the princely states could not have any choice because they have already ascended or agreed to join into the Indian Union. Now they are just only a nominal members. They don't have any special privileges mentioned for them or any special rights or any special funds allotted through the privy purses concept. Finally, if you see the Indian scenario, for 200 years the self-confidence and the development, the confidence levels were completely brushed away by the Britishers, and now it is a tough and the real interesting task to build a modern nation, a successful nation, a developed nation. We have to see a poor nation in 1947 get its independence, and finally now it's a difficult but it's an interesting task and also a great challenge and opportunity to build a developed nation of India.